Chapter 12-16, Earthshaking Event. Nine Dragons Island? Every member of the Tang family wore a strange expression. Although they also heard that Tang Xiu had been developing Nine Dragons Island, they never knew what it was like there. But it was just an isolated island. Even if it was being developed, what could it develop into? Tang poked her head out. She looked at Tang Guisheng first and then asked, "Can I not go there, Grandpa? I still have classmates, friends, and studies to tend to in China." Tang Guisheng turned to Tang Xiu. Tang Xiu cleared his throat and said, "Whether or not you decide to go to Nine Dragons Island is your call to make. House Tang may be a great clan in China as of now, but it's only on the surface as there are so many cultivator clans in China, and some really powerful families who have been hiding deep in the mountains and forests. I myself am a cultivator, and it's my wish to turn my family into a cultivator clan. In this world, the so-called authority and wealth are nothing but a sidetrack, for the genuine main path is formidable strength that you yourself own. Such powerhouses have the ability to crush the stars with their own fist and can cross the universe unhindered, live forever and become existences above billions of souls. House Tang is my family, and I have always wished to turn it into a clan of powerhouses. This world we're living in is but one of the countless worlds in this plane, and Earth is nothing but a speck of dust in this lower plane. The choice is in your hands whether you wish to stand at the summit to overlook whatever lies below, or continue being ants among other walks of life. Whatever it is, I'll respect your choice." As his voice faded away, Tang Xiu conjured a secret art and surging energy then instantly formed a large tight net under everyone's feet. His figure then flickered and instantly vanished from the room before he appeared in midair tens of meters high, with everyone else around him. Oh my god. What's going on? Every member of the Tang family, including the old patriarch, Tang Guisheng, looked horrified, tongue-tied and flabbergasted as they looked at the surroundings and all the buildings below. They felt like they were just pulled into a dream. Tang Xiu went on lightly, "Celestial immortals and the legends are not just fairy tales. They're real existences. I now provide you the opportunity to become one, but it is up to you whether you'll take it or not. I want to be a celestial immortal too." After the brief shock, Tang immediately clenched her fists and shouted excitedly. Tang Xiu smiled lightly in response. After bringing back everyone to the house, he said, "First uncle, I'll teach you a cultivation technique and will keep providing you cultivation resources. However, the Tang family will rely on you to manage the affairs here. But I promise you that even if you're the only person from our family staying here, nobody in our country will dare do anything to you. You don't even need to move if some people dare to do so. Someone else will take care of it for you." "Who is this person?" asked Tang Yunpeng in a heavy voice. "Duanmu Lin from the Special Abilities Bureau," answered Tang Xiu with a light smile. Tang Yunpeng immediately looked ecstatic upon hearing this and repeatedly nodded. "Xiu, I don't want to stay here. I also want to go to Nine Dragons Island to cultivate. But I'll stay here since you and father have decided so. But you must help me when I need it." "Please don't worry about that, uncle. House Tang in China will never fall as long as Tang Xiu is still alive." Tang Xiu smiled and said, "I'll return one person of our family to China 10 years later to take over your responsibilities here. The person who will be sent back is the most unsuitable one for cultivation and whose cultivation progresses the slowest." Tang Yunpeng's eyes shone and he burst out laughing. "All right. That would be great, Xiu. You're really good." The next day, the three brothers, Tang Guisheng, Tang Guisheng, and Tang Guishou left China with their wives. No one knew how and when they left the country. They just simply vanished. Even their bodyguards and health workers were in the dark about it. On the fourth day, Tang Yunda, Tang Min, Tang Yen, Tang Yunqing, and Tang Dong also left with their spouses. No one knew how they left either. They just disappeared. On the fifth day, Tang Ning, Tang Ying, Tang Wei, Tang Tang, and Tang Ji, with the exception of Chu Yi who was not of the same surname, also disappeared from Beijing and China. On the seventh day, all the loyal subordinates who had been cultivated by House Tang also disappeared from Beijing and China as if they had just evaporated from the world. All the chain events made countless forces began to investigate, but no one was able to find any clues. At the same time, the incidents that happened in the Tang family finally broke out, and all the affluent families in Beijing and some other powerful families and influential people in China mobilized their information network to the fullest to find out the whereabouts of House Tang's core members. However, they failed to find anything. But during their investigation, they found that Tang Min had resigned, Tang Yunqing retired, and the rest of House Tang's members in the government also resigned and left their posts voluntarily. Shortly after, all the companies owned by House Tang were merged into Magnificent Tang Corporation. Beijing, House Tang's residence. Tang Yunpeng glanced around at the now empty residence. There used to be some people living here, but the place looked dead now. In addition to tens of Tang family's martial artists who still stayed to protect him along with 2 foundation establishment experts from Tang sect, there was no one else here. Knock, knock. The door was knocked, and Tang Yunpeng's secret aide came in quickly and reported. There's a guest visiting, Patriarch. Tang Yunpeng frowned and said, Again? How many waves has it been? I'm already spent dealing with it all day. Tell the guest that I'm too tired and have rested already. The man claims to be Duanmu Lin. He said that you'd definitely meet him if I told you his name, Zhu Jianhua whispered. Duanmu Lin? As in the director of the Special Abilities Bureau? Tang Yunpeng's heart jolted and he immediately got up to walk towards the door. When he came to the front courtyard, he saw Duanmu Lin standing quietly under a tree. He let out a smile and quickly greeted him. Director Duanmu, why did you come here? Duanmu Lin sized him up and then smilingly said, I promised Tang Xiu to visit House Tang's residence in person and make it known to those countless eyes. That brat will definitely be mad at me if I don't come. Angry with him? Tang Yunpeng was shocked and faintly realized that the relationship between his nephew, Tang Xiu, and Duanmu Lin should be unusual. Then, he invited Duanmu Lin to the backyard and asked right after they took a seat, Director Duanmu, is Xiu still in the capital? Have you met him? No, Duanmu Lin shook his head. Having said that, his eyes glanced at Zhu Jianhua. After following Duanmu Lin's gaze, Tang Yunpeng immediately understood and waved his hand. Jianhua, go get something to eat and bring those 2 bottles of God's nectar. I must accompany Director Duanmu to a few cups of wine today. Understood. Zhu Jianhua also realized that Duanmu Lin had something to discuss with Tang Yunpeng, so he nodded and left immediately. Duanmu Lin nodded and smilingly said, Yunpeng, I watched you grow up and even held you when you were born. Cough, cough. Tang Yunpeng didn't even reply and held his breath. After letting out several dry coughs, he squeezed out a wry smile with an awkward expression. Hey, what you said truly can shock even the dead, senior. How many years have passed? How come it ever crossed your mind to even mention this? Well, don't you think we're actually very close? Duanmu Lin chuckled. Tang Yunpeng stared blankly, keenly aware that Duanmu Lin's visit was likely to show goodwill. But, why? This dignified director of China's Special Abilities Bureau may never show up in public, but he has enormous power in his hands. Even governors like me must always face him with humility. Why would he come here to show such goodwill all of a sudden? Is it because of Tang Xiu? Tang Yunpeng nodded and then slowly said with a sincere expression, Father and you are old friends, and you also have a deep relationship with Tang Xiu. The relationship between you and House Tang indeed goes way back, so it's just natural that we are quite close. Duanmu Lin happily smiled and said, Then I can rest assured since you already understand it. If anything, remember to mention me more in front of Tang Xiu later. Besides, I would likely need you and your family's care in the future. Well, many years later. But I don't quite understand what you said, Director Duanmu. Tang Yunpeng hesitated. We're close people, aren't we? Duanmu Lin replied meaningfully, I think you should change the address for me in private, no? Tang Yunpeng hurriedly said, Uncle Duanmu. Duanmu Lin chuckled and said, by the way, House Tang will carry out a big plan about 10 or so years later. Or rather, it's Tang Xiu who will carry out this plan. We all will be on the same side in the future, as in like a true family. But if Tang Xiu hasn't told you what that plan is, there's no need to ask more since you'll naturally learn about it later. Tang Yunpeng nodded without a word. Then, he said, Uncle Duanmu, I'll speak directly since we're now on the same boat. I'm afraid I need your help for the next 10 years if something happens. Duanmu Lin nodded. As long as I still hold my position in the next few decades, I can guarantee that House Tang's status in China will not be shaken. Your father has left China, but his departure won't shake your family. That's why I came to visit you today. It's to show everyone else that Duanmu Lin is the backer behind House Tang. Tang Yunpeng was shocked. The statement even set off a storm in his heart. He had no idea how and what did Tang Xiu do to make Duanmu Lin speak like this. Suddenly, Duanmu Lin chuckled and said, anyway, those seniors above told me to convey a message to you. You've been in your current post for several years and you should move. What do you think of Shanghai? Tang Yunpeng's pupils shrank. His body couldn't help but tremble for a while before he replied seriously, Shanghai is not bad. It's great, actually. Duanmu Lin then got up, patted Tang Yunpeng's shoulder and smilingly said, then prepare well. It may come tomorrow or maybe a few months later. Well, that's all for my visit today. And remember to tell Tang Xiu to visit me at the Special Abilities Bureau HQ when you meet him later, okay? All right. Let me send you off, Senior. Chapter 12-17, Gargantuan Plan. Tang Yunpeng was still in an excited mood after sending off Duanmu Lin, but he didn't forget about another important issue. He immediately dialed Tang Xiu's number and spoke to him in a deep tone, come home right away. I have something to talk to you. Give me half an hour, replied Tang Xiu on the phone. Less than an hour later, Tang Xiu came back from the outside. He let out a smile after seeing Tang Yunpeng and said, I heard Duanmu Lin came over? Tang Yunpeng excitedly asked, Xiu, care to tell me how you did it? He's, well, a bit different from before. It's nothing big, actually. Tang Xiu smilingly replied, Duanmu Lin is the director of the Special Abilities Bureau, and I thought that having him on our side will be very beneficial to our family, so I taught him a cultivation technique and gave him some pills. Well, I also promised him that he could join the Tang sect and become a true cultivator after a few decades, as well as allowing him to leave with us. Leave? Where to? Asked Tang Yunpeng hurriedly. The immortal world, answered Tang Xiu with all seriousness. Tang Yunpeng suddenly jolted and asked in shock, the immortal world? As in, the realm which is the final destination of all cultivators after they've ascended? That's correct. Tang Xiu nodded. Tang Yunpeng fell into silence for a long while and then seriously asked, Xiu, where's this immortal world, exactly? Is it really like what has been told in legends, a paradise-like realm, like a heaven? The scenery in the immortal world is indeed like paradise, and there also exists great things hard to find on earth. However, that place is not heaven. Tang Xiu shook his head and there was a hint of a sneer on his expression. Honestly describing it, that place is like hell compared to earth. Tang Yunpeng opened his mouth but didn't know how to express his feeling. First uncle, any world is based on a natural selection where only the fittest will survive. Tang Xiu said, what I just said may sound a bit extreme, but it isn't groundless nor unreasonable. If you want to feel that the immortal world is a paradise, then you must possess formidable strength. For the weak will only live like dogs or pigs over there. It's a place where law, order, and true peace have never existed. The whole immortal world is hundreds of millions of times bigger than the Milky Way. You can find myriads of races and countless powerful experts literally everywhere. You must think that immortals are powerful beings, right? Let me tell you, thousands of immortals meet their demise literally every day. Even the number of souls who meet their end every day could reach hundreds of millions. After seeing Tang Xiu stop explaining, Tang Yunpeng murmured, "Yet you still want to take our family." Tang Xiu raised his hand to interrupt him and seriously said, "First uncle, if you want to be stronger and live longer, then the immortal world is where you must go. That place has immortal pills and immortal ambrosia, and you can also temper yourself to be more powerful there. Don't you want to live for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, or even longer? Do you not want to have the ability to destroy a planet with the flick of your finger and ruin a galaxy with a single punch? Uncle, Earth is too small a place. Only by going to a higher plane can we enjoy much better scenery while continuously seeking the meaning of life and living a thrilling and magnificent life." Tang Yunpeng felt like his blood was boiling, a surging urge he had never felt before. The immortal world and possessing formidable power himself. He then stared at Tang Xiu fixedly and asked in a heavy voice, "How did you know about all this, Xiu?" Tang Xiu took a deep breath and shook his head before slowly saying, "Uncle, I can't tell you about this as of now, so please inquire no longer. The day we set foot in the immortal world, I'll naturally explain everything to you. What you need to do now is to go all out in cultivation. I hope you can at least reach the spirit formation stage a few decades later. All right, you won't be able to fathom many things I say as of now, so I'll teach you how to cultivate first." Tang Yunpeng nodded. Late at night, as Tang Xiu headed to the door and was about to return to his room to rest, Tang Yunpeng's voice came from behind him. "Xiu, Duanmu Lin told me something today. He said that I'll be transferred soon and my next station should be Shanghai." Tang Xiu halted his pace and smilingly replied, "Well, our magnificent Tang Corporation does indeed still need your care if you're in Shanghai, uncle. Besides, having wealth is indispensable if we want to stand tall on this planet, to begin with. Not to mention that we're going to spend a lot of money in the next 10, 20, or 30 years. Even 1 trillion yuan is perhaps not sufficient for our purpose. No worries." Tang Xiu spent the next 3 days visiting the HQ of Special Abilities Bureau to have a drink with Duanmu Lin and discuss some issues. Then he gave the man some cultivation resources before leaving. Afterward, he stayed at the Tang family's residence to cultivate and taught a cultivation technique to Tang Yunpeng and helped him in his cultivation. After spending 3 days, Tang Yunpeng could already sense the circulation of energy in his system. But it was mainly due to Tang Xiu not hesitating to expend his own cultivation and doing his best to guide Tang Yunpeng in his cultivation. December 15th. Large snowflakes fell without any warning early in the morning. There was no announcement from the weather station that snow would fall today. Tang Xiu was about to leave Beijing for Shanghai when he received a call from Bai Tao. "Tang Xiu, Qin Shaoyang and I are at Monarch Club. Care to join us?" "Got it. I'm heading there right away." Tang Xiu hung up. He did have the intention to see Bai Tao and Qin Shaoyang before leaving. He didn't have many friends in Beijing except for these two. Especially Bai Tao, whom he got acquainted with when he first came to Jingmen Island and thanks to his relationship with Long Zhengyu and Ouyang Lulu. It could be said that Bai Tao helped him purchase a lot of precious herbs which had helped him greatly when he just returned to Earth. He then left the house and walked out of the alley. After catching a cab on the street and telling the driver to head to the Monarch Club, he then called Moe in Shanghai. "Is there something up, Tang Xiu?" Moe's voice came from the phone. "Professor Mo, can you put off your current work? I'll be in Shanghai tonight and there's something I need to speak with you about," said Tang Xiu. "Do you have some other big plans in mind, Tang Xiu?" asked Moe. "The current research project is at a critical juncture. I think we can expect a good outcome in about 2 months. The next plan is very important. It isn't only for you, but it will also bring endless benefits for humanity as a whole. Tang Xiu said, well, let's talk about it later. Wait for me in Paradise Manor. All right, then. Moe knew that Tang Xiu was never one who talked big. Since he said there was an important issue to talk about, then it should be very important. Tang Xiu hung up and was about to phone Duan Mulin when he suddenly heard the cab driver smilingly saying, you youngster does really have a way in putting airs, little brother. A plan that is so great that it can greatly benefit humanity as a whole? Care to share it with me? Tang Xiu glanced at him and lightly said, well, the plan is very simple. I'm going to build a few places for human habitation in the Milky Way. Besides, our human race is nesting way too long on Earth, so we should start to set foot on the journey to govern the universe. That's why we must start inhabiting and developing the entire Milky Way. Also, humans must start to form an interstellar fleet to protect our hometown here. The cab driver couldn't help but burst out laughing. He patted the steering wheel and grinningly said, well, you're really amazing, little brother. I've seen many braggarts, but definitely none as amazing as you. Tang Xiu just let out a faint smile in response and didn't retort back. How could this cab driver understand his plan, to begin with? At the Monarch Club. With a cigarette clamped between his lips, Chen Haoren was hugging 2 pretty girls while provocatively staring at Qin Xiaoyang. Next to him were 5 youths with unusual demeanors, with arms folded and wearing mocking expressions as they looked at the ashen Qin Xiaoyan. I give you 2 weeks, surnamed Qin. If you still refuse to sign this contract by then, I'll make sure you and your old man can never set foot in Beijing again. Just wait and see if you don't believe me, said Chen Haoren with a smile. Do you really think I'm afraid of you, Chen Haoren? Replied Qin Xiaoyang with indifference. You want to fight me so we both can perish together? Go ahead. The Qins may be just a small family, but don't think we're not ready to risk everything if you want to have a go. I don't believe your Chen family still has a foothold somewhere in Beijing after the clash either. Chen Haoren's expression changed and he fiercely said, you used to have Chui and Tang Wei by your side and House Tang to cling on to, Qin Xiaoyang. But now, the Tangs are nearly finished. I don't know which powerful person they have offended, but all of them went missing. Whom can you depend on now? Who else can support you? I will. Bai Tao came from a distance with a cigarette between his lips. He glanced at Chen Haoren and the 5 young men in front of him. He then indifferently said, I don't think the Tang family is finished. Even if they are, there's still my Bai family. Chen Haoren and the rest of you guys, Xiaoyang is my friend. Don't blame me for being ruthless if you dare to provoke him. Chen Haoren stared at Bai Tao with dread in his eyes. He was silent for a short while, then differently said, Bai Tao, are you sure your family can fight against our 6 families? I can still completely ruin your 6 families by myself even without the bays. Tang Xiu came out of the corner several meters away. He then swept over everyone before his eyes landed on Chen Haoren and indifferently said, do you dare tell me who your family is? I'll make sure your family will be removed from the capital overnight. Do you believe it or not? Tang Xiu? Chen Haoren's pupils shrunk with incredulity visible on his face. It was known that every member of House Tang had disappeared now except for Tang Yunpeng, so he never expected to see Tang Xiu here. House Tang was a behemoth that had become a pressing existence in the hearts of many people. There was a day when nobody from any family dared to be their enemy, while Tang Xiu himself was the most treasured grandson of House Tang's patriarch and a man who had done many sensational things in the country. Even if he had the courage, Chen Haoren had no guts to really confront Tang Xiu. What horseshit Tang Xiu, huh? All the members of the Tang family have resigned from the official posts and have all gone missing. Even their businesses have been merged into the magnificent Tang Corporation. What are you afraid of? Another young man was furious at Tang Xiu's remarks and hurled mocking remarks in disdain. Chapter 12:18 House Tang's members are still kicking. A cold light flashed across Tang Xiu's eyes and his killing intent instantly aroused. His figure flickered and fiercely slapped that young man's face and sent him flying back to heavily fall on the floor. Tang Xiu quickly pursued and stamped his foot on his face and coldly said, "Tell me, which family are you from in Beijing?" The young man lost several teeth from the slap and half of his face was red and swollen. Although he struggled desperately to free himself the moment Tang Xiu stepped on his cheek, he still couldn't get up. His overwhelming anger nearly made him lose his mind as he growled. "I'm from the Su family, you bastard. Get your *king foot off me, Tang Xiu, bastard. Your family is no longer the Tang family it once was. I'm sure they have all *king died. Let go of me, else I'll kill you." Tang Xiu kicked the youth's belly fiercely and sent him sweeping the floor until he hit Chen Haoren's feet. Then, he coldly said, "That line alone is enough to make you a dead man. But I don't want to kill him just like that. Now I'm giving him to you all. Take him with you everywhere for the next 2 days, else you can expect your families to end up just like his." Having said that, he turned to Bai Tao and Qin Xiaoyang and lightly spoke, "Prepare some meal and wine. I'm going to make you both see a play tonight." The members of House Tang are occupied by important things, so they left China temporarily. But these people made a big mistake if they think there's no one left in the family. I can easily destroy any family by myself. Seeing Tang Xiu's actions made Qin Xiaoyang secretly feel at ease, like having vented his own anger. He replied in a deep voice, "I'll tell some people to prepare the best dishes and best wine. Let's eat to our heart's content. I already have enough of holding back today." Chen Haoren glanced at Tang Xiu and recalled the many legends about him. Although he couldn't confirm 100% about his conjecture, he was well aware that Tang Xiu was already a powerful person by himself even without the shelter of his family. Just his company alone was not what it used to be, to say the least. However, if House Tang really collapsed, only then would it be very difficult for Tang Xiu to preserve magnificent Tang Corporation, no matter how huge and well-funded it had become now. No matter how successful and filthy rich any business person was, they would never be able to fight against those top dogs in power, for they would have no choice but to yield. If there's a chance. A hint of greed birthed inside Chen Haoren's heart. He shot a cold look at Tang Xiu before he immediately propped up his beaten-up companion with the others, and quickly left the Monarch Club. Tang Xiu took out his cell phone and dialed a number. Then, he spoke, "Senior Duanmu, as per our previous agreement, I have picked up some families to serve as a warning for the rest. The first one is the Su family of Beijing, and the second one will be the one appearing later to strike the magnificent Tang Corporation." "All right." Duanmu Lin's reply came from the phone. Night came. The Su family's residence was now very lively since one of their core members had just been promoted recently. Many people in the family celebrated the happy occasion for him and wished him well for further promotion in the future. The head of the Su family of Beijing was Su Xiangdong, and he was already 80 years old this year. After spending most of his life struggling and working, he was finally able to make his family thrive with many offspring and grandchildren. The family now even had a fourth generation. He had 3 sons and 2 daughters, and the one who was recently promoted was his youngest son, Su Dinghua, now a deputy mayor of a certain city at a young age, one term which people used to call as an executive. Dinghua. Only a few of our family members hold government posts. Although your first brother also holds a considerable position, he's just a department-level leader, while your second brother doesn't want to be an official and runs a business. He may be able to mix in some fields, but I don't favor him at all. So, as long as I still live and your first brother still holds his post, you still have a huge backer behind your back. So keep working hard. Our family has always been a second-class family in Beijing, but I hope I can see our family squeeze into the ranks of first-class families in the capital in my lifetime. I'll definitely try my best, father. Su Dinghua nodded and said, also, several friends are preparing to invest in the area under my jurisdiction because of me recently. I'm the one in charge of investment promotion, so it won't be difficult to be promoted further as long as I can make some political achievements. You can expect our family resources to be focused on you as much as possible later, said Su Xiangdong happily. I expect you to do your best in your work and empower yourself step by step. You must go farther than your big brother in the future. I'll definitely try my best, father, Su Dinghua replied with a smile. Suddenly, a middle-aged man rushed into the room. When he stopped in front of Su Xiangdong and Su Dinghua, he reported with a low voice, "There's something unusual, patriarch." "What's wrong?" Su Xiangdong furrowed his brows. "We have been seeing many strangers appear near our residence since about an hour ago." The middle-aged man said, "They seem to walk around casually or are engaged in some activities. But they keep watching our site, be it intentional or not. I've sent Xiao Long's team outside to figure out the exact situation, but they haven't returned after some people led them away." Su Xiangdong's expression slightly changed and he asked in a deep voice, "Go check it yourself and ask who they are. Apprehend them directly if you find them suspicious." "Understood," the middle-aged man replied and strode out of the room. A few minutes later, the middle-aged man went towards the two young men with four tough men who had remarkable skills. He shot a look at the two men and asked in a deep voice, "Who are you guys? Why are you spying on my Su family?" The two youths exchanged glances and one of them lightly replied, "I have no idea what you're talking about. We just had dinner, so we are strolling around to digest the food." "Lying, huh?" The middle-aged man snorted coldly and said, "Capture them. Give them a hard lesson if they refuse to spit out their true purpose." "Roger." The four big men answered and moved to catch the two young men. "The Su family is rebelling. The Sus have committed treason. They're damned bastards." The two young men quickly retreated and shouted aloud. In but a moment, many figures appeared in the vicinity and moved several times faster than average people's speed. They directly attacked the middle-aged man and those four big men the moment they appeared, severely injuring them and knocking them out in just a few breaths. Creak. Four black cars quickly stopped at the gate of the Su family's residence. As a big man came out and opened the car's door, Duanmu Lin and Tang Xiu got off the car. Wearing an indifferent face, Duanmu Lin glanced at the six tough men in front of the gate of the Su family's residence, whose expressions greatly changed, and shouted in a deep voice, "The Su family has committed treason and must be punished for attacking the people from the Special Abilities Bureau. Storm their house and detain all of them. You're allowed to kill anyone on the spot if they fight back." "Understood." Tens of experts from the Special Abilities Bureau dashed to the gate in front. The six experts of Su family standing at the gate quickly exchanged glances and tried to stop them but were easily knocked out by the former. The moment after, the whole residence of the Su family was turned upside down into a complete mess. In the deepest area of the residence, Su Xiangdong and Su Dinghua had already come out and their expression enormously changed after seeing tens of experts from the Special Abilities Bureau storm inside. As Su Dinghua roared, all the guards of the Su family appeared and quickly lunged towards these experts. The fight commenced and the killings began, causing the situation in the Su family's residence to turn more chaotic and the smell of blood to become stronger. However, it only took a few minutes for the Special Abilities Bureau's experts to kill over than 10 guards of the Su family. "Stop it. All of you, stop." Su Xiangdong's expression looked miserable and desperate. He could see that the enemies who attacked his family were very strong. They were so powerful that he shuddered with fright. To make him feel worse was the sight of several special abilities unleashed by some of these enemies. That's right, these people were using special abilities. He knew that nearly all ability users in China were under the Special Abilities Bureau. He had a faint hunch that these people attacking his family were people from this agency. Duanmu Lin and Tang Xiu slowly walked into the backyard. Tang Xiu sneered upon seeing that the fight on both sides had stopped. "Are you Patriarch Su?" asked Tang Xiu lightly. Su Xiangdong's expression slightly changed after seeing Tang Xiu, but his aged body secretly trembled and he looked horrified when he saw Duanmu Lin. He knew who Duanmu Lin was and realized that his guess was on the mark. The people attacking his family were from the Special Abilities Bureau. Director Duanmu. Su Xiangdong cupped his fists and quickly loosened his stance. With a bitter smile on his face, he said, "Director Duanmu, I'm honored by your visit, but there's no need to display such a battle formation like this, is there? If someone in my family has offended you, you can come here alone and no one in my family will dare to oppose you." Director Duanmu. Su Xiangdong, your family is colluding with some foreign forces with which you've become a huge threat to the security of the state. Duanmu Lin indifferently said, "We have received a confidential report that you, Su Xiangdong, has committed treason. I didn't believe it at first, but your men just attacked the Special Abilities Bureau's people. It seems that the information is correct, so everyone in your family must die." Treason? Disbelief was all over Su Xiangdong's face as he loudly exclaimed, "Director Duanmu, you can put whatever into your mouth, but you should be more mindful of what comes out it. My family has always known our place, so how can we become traitors and sell our own country? There must be a misunderstanding here." Duanmu Lin looked at Tang Xiu with an expression that said, "You handle it." Tang Xiu nodded to him without a word. Then, his lips shifted with a sneer. "Patriarch Su, you may say that your family didn't betray the country. But your claim doesn't count against mine." Su Xiangdong's expression changed yet again. He stared fixedly at Tang Xiu and carefully observed his expression. Then, he slowly said, "Aren't you Tang Xiu from House Tang? Ah. It seems you haven't lost your sight from old age and can still recognize such a nobody like me." Tang Xiu chuckled. "You're correct. I'm Tang Xiu from the Tang family." "Is there any feud between my family and yours?" asked Su Xiangdong. Chapter 12:19, Punishment to Deter the Rest. A smile painted Tang Xiu's handsome face after hearing the question. He shook his head and said, "The Sus and Tangs have never had any feud. Your family isn't yet worth to enter the list." Su Xiangdong angrily said, "If there's no feud between us, then why did you?" Raising his hand to interrupt Su Xiangdong, Tang Xiu coldly said, "The Sus and Tangs have no feuds whatsoever, but the same can't be said between me and Su Xiaoguang, your grandson. He said everyone from House Tang has already died and the Tangs are no longer what we once were. That's why I'll make your family know that House Tang is still kicking." Only then did Su Xiangdong understand the reason why Tang Su came with such a large force. He even had the Special Abilities Bureau involved because his grandson had offended him. Still, is it really needed to form such a large force just because of a minor conflict between youngsters? Is it even necessary to set up the Su family with treason? Suddenly, he realized something and his pupils shrunk. "Tang Xiu, are you trying to warn others by punishing us? No wonder the Su can thrive and gain a foothold in the capital for decades, huh?" Tang Xiu gave a thumbs up and praised. "It turns out that Patriarch Su really has wisdom and intellect. It's really a pity when your offspring and grandson are a letdown and even invited disaster to befall upon your family, isn't it? But now, things have happened and come to this point, so it's time for you to die." Duanmu Lin slowly raised his hand. "Wait." Su Xiangdong's face looked miserable as he shouted, "I know your purpose, Tang Xiu, but I beg you to give my family a way to survive. I can give that unfilial bastard, Su Xiaoguang, to you to be punished if he offended you. Whether he'll live or die, you can do whatever you want to him." Tang Xiu narrowed his eyes and watched Su Xiangdong, who now looked like he was turning several years older instantly. He then replied to him lightly, "You still have that chance if you do have the intention to settle everything peacefully. We can also talk about the chance of sparing everyone from your family. Only, the Special Abilities Bureau has recently been short of funds and we need to purchase various equipment. My family is willing to pay for it." "Please state the number," said Su Xiangdong in a deep voice. 10 billion. Tang Xiu stretched out a finger and lightly said, 10 billion is the amount needed by the Special Abilities Bureau. Provide the money if you want everyone in your family to be spared. Gasp. The Su family may be rich, but Su Xiangdong still gasped after hearing the excessive amount of money demanded by Tang Xiu. The Su family was indeed able to raise 10 billion yuan, but once they withdrew such an amount, it would severely damage the foundation of the family, to the extent that it would be nearly impossible for them to recover in decades. What should I do? Su Xiangdong's expression kept changing as all ideas intensely clashed inside his head. Finally, he spoke in a heavy tone, "No problem. My family will provide the set amount to fund the Special Abilities Bureau." "You're really able to adapt to the circumstances, Patriarch Su. That's great." Tang Xiu praised as he gave him a thumbs up again. "So, let me tell you the second condition. Su Dinghua from your family is already old and he's no longer suitable to hold any post in the government. He must leave his office and live as an average person from now on. You." Su Xiangdong felt like he had just swallowed thousands of flies as his expression turned unsightly to the extreme. Even though his family had many members, they only had a few potential juniors in the younger generations. Su Dinghua was exactly their future hope for the family, the son he cherished and hoped to go farther and farther in the future, and the one who had the chance to become a governor. In case he resigned, the Su family could expect to face a much difficult path in the future, which would make it more even difficult for them to return to their current situation. "I comply." Su Dinghua tightly clenched his fists, his nails deeply digging into his palms, causing blood to drip down between his fingers. All members of the Sus are also forbidden to come out for the next 6 months. You're under house arrest and are not allowed to step out of your house, Tang Xiu added lightly. "I comply." Su Xiangdong's voice was squeezed out of his throat. Tang Xiu went on with a sneer, "My last demand is about Su Xiaoguang. His big mistake must be punished. I don't want to see him able to even stand for the rest of his life." Pua. This time, Su Xiangdong spurted out a mouthful of blood. If it wasn't for Su Dinghua next to him, who quickly grabbed and held him up, he would have already fallen to the ground. "I'll break his legs with my own hands." Su Xiangdong's face was as though devoid of life after he replied. Tang Xiu happily nodded and said, "Then I'll be waiting for you to deliver your promises. I don't care how wild and arrogant the Su family or the other families are. But today, I'll make everyone in the country know that House Tang still exists." Having said that, he nodded to Duanmu Lin and cupped his fists. "Senior Duanmu, this issue has been resolved, so we're going to give a way out for the Sus to keep on living. If this family still dares to make House Tang as an enemy again, the Special Abilities Bureau doesn't need to get involved again, for House Tang will completely exterminate them at that time. I don't care much about the dispute between families and will stay away from it later," said Duanmu Lin lightly. "But keep in mind to cover everything well so I don't hear and see anything when you exterminate the Su family, got it?" "Don't worry about that." Tang Xiu smiled and said, "I was able to get rid of the Yaos before. A small family such as the Sus isn't worth it to even enter my eyes." Duanmu Lin nodded in response before he glanced at Su Xiangdong with some pity. Then, he shouted an order in a deep voice, "Heed my orders, all members. Withdraw immediately." In just a minute, all the members of the Special Abilities Bureau withdrew from the Su family's residence. Duanmu Lin and Tang Xiu also didn't stay and directly left by car. In just 2 hours, the calamity that befell the Su family spread out through various channels to all the affluent families in the capital, and even reached the ears of some powerful families in other provinces of China. House Tang still exists and their members are still alive. The line spread out very fast and quickly passed to the ears of every powerful person in China. Even some powerful big bosses could only force a wry smile and shook their heads after receiving the news. At the Monarch Club, Bai Tao and Qin Shaoyang calmly sat before the table while waiting for Tang Xiu to arrive. Both of them wore similar expressions and were apparently thinking about something. Ring, ring, ring. Bai Tao's cell phone rang and abruptly pulled both men from their train of thought. Bai Tao grabbed his cell phone and looked at the number displayed on the screen first. After seeing that it was his father's number, he immediately pressed the answer button and asked, "What happened, Dad?" "Tao, have you been in touch with Tang Xiu recently?"
"Yeah.
"We just met today and now I'm waiting for him to have a drink at the Monarch Club. Do remember to never alienate Tang Xiu no matter what House Tang becomes. Preserve a good relationship with him. It's best if you can become a life and death sworn brother with him." "What's wrong with you, Dad? Did something happen?" "It's a major incident." A few minutes later, Bai Tao zoned out after he hung up the phone. After he put his cell phone on the table, he stared blankly at Qin Shaoyang, who was bewildered by his action. Bai Tao's lips squirmed a few times and he said with a wry smile, "You know, the Su family is finished. They can be ranked as the second-class family in Beijing as of recently, but they probably can't even enter the list of the third-rate family in just a flash moment." Qin Shaoyang abruptly got up and quickly asked, "What exactly happened?" "My old man just called and said that Tang Xiu and a large number of people from the Special Abilities Bureau directly stormed the Su family and committed slaughter after charging them for treason. Finally, the Su family's patriarch, Su Xiangdong, then begged for mercy." After hearing the full story from Bai Tao, disbelief was all over Qin Shaoyang's face. He never thought that Tang Xiu would be so powerful that he could even move the personnel of the Special Abilities Bureau. "In the past, I thought that he was relying heavily on the Tang family, but now I realize that it turns out to be the other way around. I just can't imagine how much power he possesses at the present." Qin Shaoyang took a deep breath and grinned wryly. "Well, the first time I met him was when he was still a nobody who was just about to showcase his talents to the world." Bai Tao nodded and said, "It never crossed my mind that he would reach so high in just a few years. You know, if I must be honest, what I'm worried about is how I can still have some fun times with him in the future." Qin Shaoyang gave it a thought and said, "Bai Tao, back when I decided to be Tang Xiu's good friend, I was really sincere, not only because of his identity but also due to his own abilities. I then found that he has a likable personality ever since I got acquainted with him and how he values friendship and relationship, the qualities that make him a rare friend to have. That's why I've already thought it through. I'll cast away any other thoughts and just become his good friend no matter how powerful he becomes in the future. I just care about him. I don't care about anything else that entails with him being my friend." "Well said." Tang Xiu came floating and appeared in front of the two dazed men. His right hand lightly patted Qin Shaoyang's shoulder and he smilingly said, "Treating a friend with sincerity and putting away any external factors entailed. That's really how one must treat their true friends. Qin Shaoyang, you will be my true friend and a brother of mine." Qin Shaoyang got up and patted Tang Xiu's shoulder as well, laughing. "I have many friends, but the true ones among them are but a few. From today on, you and Bai Tao are my real friends along with Chu Yi, though I have no idea where this fella has run to recently. But no matter what, all three of you are my friends. And Bai Tao, thanks a bunch for standing up for me today. We're friends, so save your thanks later on, got it?" replied Bai Tao with a smile. Friends and brothers. These two terms somehow always aroused vigilance in Tang Xiu's heart. He had always been wary of giving his back to those who even had the best relationship with him, like Yuan Chuling and Long Zhengyu. But today, Qin Shaoyang said something that made him realize that some people wanting to be his friends out of their pure intention without any external factors, but only their sincerity to become friends with him. Back when he was in the immortal world, those who he once thought were life and death brothers had too much involvement and entanglement entailed. Their relationship gradually fell behind and turned into one that was more and more vested in interests and benefits, and no longer was there such a pure intention from the beginning. Come, let's have a toast. Tang Xiu raised his glass and laughed loudly. Chapter 12:20, Scaring Them Out of Their Wits. The Golden Coast Hot Spring Manor was the best hot spring resort in the capital. It was an upscale, first-class resort in the entire capital, popular among officials, dignitaries, as well as the young ladies and scions of affluent families due to its rich recreation and entertainment. Su Xiaoguang was reeking with alcohol when he entered the warm steaming hot spring pool, and was already drunk when he leaned onto the warm hot spring pond. A fine Cuban cigar was clamped at the end of his lips while Chen Haoren, who sat next to him, had indistinct fierceness and cruelty flashing in his eyes from time to time. You guys tell me. How much wealth does the magnificent Tang Corp have? How much wealth can we share if we obtain this company? Suddenly, Chen Haoren asked. The other five were stunned and immediately thought about it. Afterward, each and every one of them wore a shocked expression. Su Xiaoguang clenched his fists and said aloud, I heard that the auction held by Magnificent Tang Corporation amassed a colossal amount of money. It's said that they earned hundreds of billions, and maybe over 1 trillion yuan. If we can get this company and then share only a fraction of it, we all will definitely become super rich. We can even enter the front line of the rich, like their spokesman. All in all, we can do anything we want in the future. Chen Haoren's mouth curved and an evil grin appeared on his face when he meaningfully said, House Tang is no longer glorious. Although I have no idea what happened to them, the members of this family have resigned from their posts in the government and left their business mogul status. They are like hidden rats with no trace to be found now. What does this mean, then? I think it shows that the Tangs must have encountered big troubles or something, which forced them to give up everything, be it their positions, wealth, and status. Their wealth still remains now, but it's obvious that it will become free meals ready to be devoured by other powers. Haoren, I'll follow along if you dare to take the action on this one, blurted Su Xiaoguang in a deep voice. Chen Haoren smiled in response. Just as he shifted to the rest, he noticed that the owner of Golden Coast Hot Spring Resort, Zhang Dong, a man who also had considerable standing in the capital, was coming over half running with 4 black-suited men as if something had happened. As Zhang Dong came to the hot spring pool, he glanced over at everyone with a complicated expression. As his eyes finally landed on Su Xiaoguang's face, his expression looked solemn. Su Xiaoguang, I give you 10 minutes to leave this resort. You're not welcome anymore starting from today. What? Su Xiaoguang was dumbfounded and stared blankly at Zhang Dong as though the man was a complete stranger to him. Prior to this, Zhang Dong had always acted humbly and so enthusiastic like his own lackey. Why did he turn his face and refuse him now? When did he ever annoy or offend him? Chen Haoren furrowed his brows and asked in a heavy tone, What do you mean by that, Boss Zheng? We're all brothers, yet you want to drive Su Xiaoguang away so blatantly. Are you also driving us away? Zhang Dong hesitated for a moment. His expression changed and he squeezed out a forced smile and helplessly said, Young Master Chen, it's not like I want to drive Su Xiaoguang away. It's because I'm scared that I have to drive him away. He has courted huge trouble to himself. I will probably be implicated if I let him stay here. Please hear my advice. Hurry up and announce that you have no relationship with him, else it will be difficult for you to avoid the imminent calamity coming for you. His statement made Chen Haoren even more confused. What do you mean? Haven't you heard about the latest news, young Master Chen? Asked Zhang Dong. Do you know that Su Xiaoguang has pissed off someone he can't afford to provoke? He has annoyed that House Tang's young master. People always say that a lean camel is still bigger than a horse. House Tang is the current super powerful and was the one who completely annihilated House Yao, another very powerful family, then. He just courted his own death by provoking them. Alas, I won't say anything more about this Su brat. Just scram from my place and don't bring calamity to me. I'm just a small-time businessman, I can't afford to get involved with you. Su Xiaoguang jumped out of the hot spring naked. But being drunk after drinking too much last night, his wet feet didn't stand properly on the floor and he fell straight with his head on the floor. He shrieked due to the pain, though it helped him sober up from his drunkenness. What the hell did you just say, surnamed Zhang? Do you dare repeat it to this daddy, huh? Su Xiaoguang struggled to get up and yelled angrily. Zhang Dong narrowed his eyes in response and then replied without being salty, "Don't blame me from acting indifferent towards you, young Master Su. But the man you've provoked is very terrifying. Not to mention me, even your family just suffered a heavy blow this time. I dare say that your family won't even be able to stand up again for the next 10 years. You, best take care of yourself." What the hell do you mean by that, Zhang? Su Xiaoguang got up with difficulty and shouted, "Spit out everything." Zhang Dong glanced at the cell phones on the poolside table. Then, he lightly replied, "I'm really curious. Sensational news has literally exploded outside, yet you are still acting mighty and ignorant like this. Did no one call you at least once? Does Patriarch Su really dote you to this extent? He even left you out when your family is going to collapse? My family is going to collapse?" Su Xiaoguang's heart pounded. He may be a silk pan, but he was still quite smart. He could faintly tell that some major event had happened given how Zhang Dong acted and the words he said after he arrived. Immediately after, he rushed to the poolside table and grabbed his cell phone. After checking it, he found that his cell phone was out of battery and had been automatically shut down. He quickly grabbed Shen Haoren's mobile phone and dialed his father's number. "Who's this?" an angry voice asked from the phone. "It's me, Dad." "Has something happened in our family?" asked Su Xiaoguang quickly. 10 seconds passed, but no sounds nor reply came from the phone. Just as uneasiness grew in Su Xiaoguang's heart, it wasn't a voice nor sound that came out, but a roar. "You damn beast. Swine. You only fucking know how to make troubles all day long. Get the hell back here now. You must get back home in half an hour. Beast? Swine? Dad actually swears and calls me a beast?" Disbelief was all over Su Xiaoguang's face and his heart fell to the bottom. He was now completely sure that something, a big accident, really happened at home. Shen Haoren frowned deeper. He came to Su Xiaoguang's side and received his phone back from him. Then, he asked, "What happened?" Su Xiaoguang turned difficultly. His lips squirmed a few times when he saw Chen Haoren, but nothing came out of it. The next moment, he staggered to the pond, put on his clothes, and then walked towards the outside staggeringly. He must go home. He needed to find out what was happening in the Su family residence. Chen Haoren fiddled with his cell phone before he looked at Zhang Dong and asked, "Boss Zhang, your actions were eye-catching and I see you in a new light now. But I'm sure there's a reason given your personality. Just tell me what exactly happened to the Su family." "Young Master Chen, I know that you are friends with Su Xiaoguang." Zhang Dong forced a smile. "But please heed my advice and draw a line with him right away and never have any relationship with him anymore. Though if my guess is correct, the chance for you two to meet in the future will be next to nil. Tell me more." Chen Haoren looked cold. I have no idea how Su Xiaoguang provoked House Tang. But in the end, Tang Xiu and a large number of ability users from the Special Abilities Bureau directly besieged the Su family's residence and charged them for treason. At least tens of the family guards were killed and then, that Tang Xiu from House Tang. Zhang Dong told the whole story he knew and finally sighed. As of now, all the affluent families in the capital have learned about this incident. The news has spread out, not only limited in the capital, but also has passed to all the forces and powerful families in entire China. Although a large number of House Tang's members are missing, this family is now much more fearsome than ever with such a large mountain like the Special Abilities Bureau behind them. Chen Haoren trembled and nearly fell to the floor. His complexion turned ghastly pale instantly and fear and dread were visible in his eyes. It was a big trouble. He knew exactly the cause of the incident. No one knew better than him what Su Xiaoguang did to offend Tang Xiu, which ultimately led to such a disaster to the Su family. If it wasn't Su Xiaoguang who intervened him at the Monarch Club back then, it would have been him who offended Tang Xiu. No. It was very likely that he had offended Tang Xiu. The moment Chen Haoren realized it, he suddenly felt a chill as though he was falling into an ice hole. He quickly put on his clothes, grabbed his things, and then ran outside. Going home. He needed to go home right away and quickly tell the elders of his family to try to find a remedy to resolve this issue. Else, even if the Chens were slightly stronger than the Sus, fighting against the fearsome people from the Special Abilities Bureau was futile and only courting their own deaths. At the Chen family residence. Chen Shua sat in front of family head, Chen Xintao, who wore a wry smile on his normally dignified face. Then, he said, "Dad, this is just simply a gangster play. How could the Sus possibly commit treason? Yet, such a charge was just casually thrown at them. This is simply despicable. The Sus only have themselves to blame on this one." Chen Xintao sneered. Having such wastrel as descendant who only knows to stir up troubles and finally causes a disaster to the family. House Tang. I can't even figure out what happened to them until now, yet someone has started to provoke this family. This is just giving a chance to House Tang to kill a chicken to warn the monkeys. My thoughts exactly. Chen Shua nodded. It's just that I never thought that the Tangs would actually kill a chicken with a huge cleaver. Such a method of a deliberate show of strength is really effective to warn others. There's no need for Tang Yunpeng to move at all. House Tang only leaves Tang Yunpeng alone now. It's very likely that he has very powerful cards in his hands. Chen Xintao said, he didn't need to move, but Tang Xiu still easily brought out such a great mountain and directly crushed the Su family. That's really a great and amazing feat. Chen Sua nodded and was about to speak. Suddenly, he recalled something and his face slightly changed. He then hurriedly said, "Father, as far as I know, Haoren often hangs out with Su Xiaoguang, that Su family's brat. Do you think that with Su Xiaoguang offending Tang Xiu and House Tang, then Haoren